take a question from the floor. Sure, please.
Thank you very much. This has been fascinating. But as we all know, the story of ASEAN can be told as a glass that is either half full or a glass that is half empty. And I'm afraid that, partly because of the way the discussion has turned, the focus has been a lot on the glass half empty and not on the glass half full. And so I think maybe we should acknowledge the fact that if you did a very objective audit of regional organizations, and regional organizations are strange creatures. They don't work like efficient companies. They are by definition messy, untidy, and 3 steps forward, 2 steps backward. But in the world of regional communities, there really isn't one better than ASEAN. And even the European Union, John would acknowledge, now that the UK has decided to leave it, that's a very powerful statement that it's a broken community. What used to be the shining symbol of the world is now scrambling to handle a very messy divorce. And in that sense, I agree with Prime Minister Hun Sen that ASEAN is ahead. We don't have a messy divorce on our hands. We have lots of challenges. But realistically, look around the world, whether it's Mercosur, whether it's the African Union, whether it's the Arab League, find me one organization that's done better than ASEAN. So I think maybe a little bit more focus on ASEAN's successes looking ahead would be great, because that's what actually I tried to do in the book I'm coming out with, to point out that ASEAN, by any standards, is a miracle. And here in Davos, we have to tell the world that if you want examples of regional cooperation, there's no better one than ASEAN.
And Kisho's question,
I like that.
and Kisho's question is, do you agree? So let me just tell him one regional organization that I think does have a great deal of promise, which you didn't mention, and that's the Pacific Alliance, that brings together Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Peru. And those 4 countries, 4 years ago, formed an alliance. They are now moving very fast to an economic union, to financial cooperation. They will have a common stock market. And this is an organization to which Mercosur countries even want to subscribe. So Argentina under Macri has talked about, could we become a member of the Pacific Alliance, even though last time I checked, Argentina was not a Pacific nation. And so there are examples. And one of the secrets of the Pacific Alliance has been, actually, to keep the membership tight. There's about 55 observer nations to the Pacific Alliance, including Singapore. And yet, they have decided not to expand too quickly, and also not to over-institutionalize. There's no big Secretariat General. There's not thousands of bureaucrats that meet all the time. This is an agreement that has become organic between the 4 countries. And lest one think that this was easy, today, you would think that the Pacific Wars happened 2 weeks ago, because it's very quickly for a conflict between Chile and Peru to emerge because of a statement by a parliamentarian in one country or the other. These are countries, too, that have territorial disputes between them. So I would look at the Pacific Alliance as an organization that also has promise, and my counsel to the Pacific Alliance is not to expand too quickly. I celebrate the successes of ASEAN, and it's because it's been a successful organization that people place greater expectations on it, and that's the reason why I think that ASEAN leaders should continue in the interests of their own 650 million plus people, and in the interest of international stability, to find even more inventive ways to push that consensus forward and ensure that there is ASEAN-led diplomacy in the region.
Dr. Nazir, do you share that optimism? And perhaps can you suggest a number of concrete ways in which, for a business like yours, how can ASEAN more quickly arrive at a full glass?
Yeah, I mean, I think, firstly, John, ASEAN's been around since 1967. Yeah, so, we've been tested, and I think ASEAN the partnership between these 10 countries is very robust. And I think, even though, what I like doing is trying to challenge whether we can do better. Yeah, that's not saying that we haven't done a great job. Yeah, given certainly where from the Prime Minister Hun Sen's long lens, of where we started, ASEAN does a phenomenal job. Yeah, but as we stand today, I would like to see the integration efforts being more directed, if you like. If you look at my sector, which is banking, there are certain initiatives under the umbrella called Qualified ASEAN Banks, right? And within that, it's about licensing in various countries, etc. Whereas I think if one is more directed, you'd kind of go in and say, okay, the better way is to resolve issues about movement of labor, about outsourcing of operations, movement of data. Those are actually more value creating and actually less contentious. So when it comes to ASEAN integration, I just feel that there needs to be more focused leadership. And here's where, contrary to what John says, the experience of Pacific Alliance, I actually think we need to enlarge and empower the ASEAN Secretariat a little bit more, yeah, so that we can have more focused leadership into the details of where we can have more value-creating integration without, the negative side effects that we don't want.
There was another question from the floor. I'll take one more question, please.
John Ehara, Unison Capital, Japan. I want to ask a questions somewhat financial and economic oriented. We are in the period of great uncertainties, and the mood here at the Davos is full of that. But there's one certainty that we are witnessing, that is a hike in US dollars interest rate. And I'm a bit concerned about the impact of it on ASEAN countries. In the past, emerging countries, including Asian countries, have contributed significantly to worldwide growth in terms of GDP and so forth. But now we are talking about not just a little hike, how many hikes, and how soon in dollar interest rate. So I'd like to hear your views.
Perhaps Ibu Mari?
Yeah, I think this has been also discussed quite long in ASEAN as we wait for the US interest rates to go up. And we've already, in the case of Indonesia, we've already had two rounds, two shocks in 2013 and in 2015, where we did have capital outflow and the exchange rate took a big hit. So I think it's in a way been factored in already. And I think what's important is actually for Indonesia and for the other ASEAN countries to face this uncertain path of the US interest rates going up by making sure that our macro policies remain stable. And in the case of Indonesia, for instance, it was a fiscal policy sustainability issue, which was an issue of why we had these capital outflows. But I think we are in good progress now and process to ensure that we have fiscal sustainability. So I think the key is really about making sure you have your macro fundamentals right, both on the fiscal side and on the monetary side, to, you will still feel a little bit of volatility in the exchange rate, but I don't think it will go to the extent like in 2013 or 2015. And I'm not sure where the US dollar will go. Right now it's strengthening, but it could also, it will hurt the US economy if it strengthens too much. So in a way, they will also be careful about how they manage that. And not to have inconsistent real sector policies, that will scare investors away. That's really the way to deal with it.
Well, if the dollar continues to rise, then the U.S. exports would be hurt. So I think that the U.S. can allow the U.S. dollars to rise indefinitely. So I think that the world right now is a flat world. So there will be manageable policies.
Great. Please join me in thanking the panelists for what was a wonderful and lively discussion.